This is Nick Tintle, two-time All-American at University of North Carolina, MLL professional lacrosse player, PLL professional lacrosse player, played for the national team for the United States, owner of Athlete's Choice, big role model to our lacrosse team, big muscle guy. He's always out here. Nick Tintle, everyone.
So nervous.
I am super nervous. This is, and that we'll go into that a little bit too, because I hate public speaking. I haven't done it since college, so this is kind of like a challenge for me to get in front of a big group of kids and speak. So thank you for that introduction as well. My story is about perseverance, so we're just going to start off with that right off the bat. It's like a no-quit attitude and just doing whatever you have to do in order to achieve success in the long run. So my story starts back in high school. I wanted to start back in high school because that's where you guys are at, and that's where you guys can kind of relate to my story. So I've always been an athlete. In high school, I was told I was too small, like some of you. I was 119 pounds as a freshman. I wrestled 112 or 119 that year. But my big sports were football and lacrosse. So those are the sports I wanted to play at the next level. At that time, I thought I was going to be in the NFL, being a running back, but obviously that didn't work out. So 119, so I was told by coaches, I was told by friends, you know, a lot of people told me that I was too small and I would never do anything on the football field, lacrosse field, all that good stuff. I just found answers. Instead of like letting that hold me back or like what I did is I just became obsessed with proving people wrong. So my answer was to go to the weight room every morning at 5:30 a.m. And I didn't miss a day. From the day I started, 3.5 years later, I didn't miss a day, 5 days a week, 5:30 a.m. in the weight room. So I put on weight and became a pretty successful football player and a really successful lacrosse player. But I could share all the accolades with you, and yeah, I'm proud of those accolades. I have 11 football records, school records. I have every record you could think of in lacrosse for that school. I was a two-time All-American lacrosse player. I was an All-State football player. Those aren't the things that like I'm proud of. The things I'm proud of is not missing a day in the weight room at 5:30 a.m. And it's tough. As you guys know, it's tough to wake up every day and do something day in and day out. And most of you know how much I harp on you guys to be consistent with your workouts and training. This is why, because I know that this stuff breeds results. So long story short with that, like I'll fast forward to college. Going to college, my first day of practice, like another thing that I ran into was the slow your roll freshman. That's what I ran into. So Carolina, I get recruited. They have top recruiting classes every year. They're supposed to be a powerhouse in lacrosse. I get recruited to go there, my dream school. And the first day of practice, I get told that by upperclassmen. So I see the culture of that school already, which is not good, right? So we're ranked third that year as a freshman. We don't even make playoffs. We didn't even get into playoffs. Ranked third preseason, don't make playoffs, right? So you could see the culture in that. And what I did is I went back to what I did in high school. How do I outwork everybody on the team? How do I change the culture and lead by example and not worry about those guys telling me to slow my roll or stay in your lane, freshman, and all that stuff? I didn't care. I didn't have any, the seniors didn't like me because I was showing them up day in and day out, or outworking them day in and day out. And I didn't care if they didn't like me. It wasn't like a cool fact. Like I went to school there to win a national championship, to win an ACC title. With that being said, we turned it around. We didn't make playoffs freshman, sophomore year. As a junior, I became a captain. We did make playoffs. We made it to the second round of playoffs, which is better than we've done in the years past, which I was proud of. I was a captain that year. I was an All-American, and I was recognized as a team MVP for best, most valuable player on the team. Awesome accolades again. Don't care about them. Care about what I did to get there. That's the most important thing, right? What did I do? I stayed after practice. I stayed out and shot more. I needed to work on my shot, so I worked on my shot daily. I was the hardest worker in the weight room by far every single time. So those are the things that I attribute. So I always go back to all right, I was told I was too small. What did I do to switch that and look at what it got, where it got me, or the accolades that came with it. Moving forward, senior year, same thing. We made it to second round playoffs. I did pretty well, but at the end of it, I went there to win a national championship, never did. I went there to win an ACC title. I never won an ACC game. My class never beat Duke, never beat Maryland, never beat Virginia. And that haunts me still. Trust me, haunts me. So with that being said, like our coaches, we didn't have a good coach. Like I never blame coaches, but they allowed that culture, which I didn't agree with. The captains allowed that culture that I didn't agree with. And I was burnt out of lacrosse because I felt like I took such a leadership role at such a young age that it was really tough. And I learned a ton during that time, but it was really a disappointing, time in my career. Now, with that being said, going into kind of the next stages, which this is where I get a little, don't laugh. So I like every,
You need that hug right now.
So every player at that college level's dream is to get the call to play a professional sport. NBA, MLB, first round. I get that call. Decided to hang my career up. One, because I was burnt out. Second was because I found out that my best friend was shot. So I don't speak about this often. This is my second time sharing this story since, this is 11 years ago now. And it's hard for me to share it, so. Just bear with me. So I get the call in the morning from another friend about it. I think it's a joke. I didn't really take it seriously. I was still at school for an extra semester. Like I said, I turned down the chance to play a professional sport. Yeah, lacrosse professional is a joke compared to NBA and NFL and all that. But it kind of put a lot of things in perspective for me. Something I was burnt out about and thought was so tough, and like not winning an ACC game, like, do you think I give a shit about that? Excuse my French. Do you think I give a crap? Sorry, I'm from New York. I have a bad mouth. I don't give a crap about that stuff. Like, it put life in perspective for me. With that being said, like, people tell you there's two paths in life. One's the good road, one's the bad road. I call BS on that, because that situation put me in that bad road. And I followed it for a while until I had to find myself again. And during that time, I got that call. I was still at UNC for my extra semester, and all I needed was family and friends. So I booked a flight as quick as I could to get off campus because I was in a dark place. I go home, do all, the ceremony, bury my best friend, graduate, go into the working world and working force and not doing what I want to do, being stubborn. Business is about networking. I had a lot of networks in Lower Manhattan to get a really good job right out of college. And didn't take them, tried to, carve my own path. And like I said, going back, I went down that wrong path. My friends that were there for me and to console me also became a crutch. So me, and we had about, 8 to 10 other friends that were like, as tight as some of you guys in here, like tight friends. We started doing, like, I would go out, and I'm gonna share this with you. I know you guys are young for this, but like, we would go out, and I didn't go out to socially drink. I went out to forget things. And I'm not that person. I've never been. I never will be again. So one night I came home and I went to the voice of reason, is my mom, and I talked to her. And I told her I gotta leave. I gotta get out of here. It's not good for me, and I just gotta go. So I packed my truck. 2 months later, I'm driving across country to California with whatever money I had in my bank, and to tell you the truth, it is not a lot, and I spent most of it on the journey out here. So just getting away and finding myself was the best thing for me. I didn't have the crutch of my friends. I didn't have my family to kind of console me, which is great at times, but sometimes you just have to figure it out on your own. I need to just restart and find myself again. So the drive out here, I sold solar panels door to door. If you've ever done any door-to-door sales, you know how miserable it is. It's tough. So I was selling $30,000, $40,000 solar panels to door-to-door during dinner time. A lot of dads yelled at me and didn't like me being there. And I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, but I had to do something to pay rent out here to start over and start fresh. So that's where it comes back into the real perseverance of my story, where I come back into myself and I start putting all my focus into the good path. So like I said with the paths, one's good, one's bad. I went down the bad path. I just crossed over and got back on the good path. So there's no like if you make mistakes, you go down that path, you could always cross back over. And it starts with one little thing a day. So I started doing one little thing a day to better my situation. So I quit that job. I decided that sports are everything to me. Why don't I get into training? So I got all my certifications. I borrowed money to get certifications. I reached out to some gyms in the area. I started working at a gym down in San Juan Capistrano. I was getting paid $10 an hour. I think I ate Subway for 2 years straight. I would buy the $5 footlong and have half for lunch, half for dinner. But I loved what I was doing. And it got me a passion, like coaching and teaching and mentoring and leading. Like that's what I think I was meant to do. So started training again, started getting back into lacrosse coaching, a sport that I just never wanted to play or see or do, like be around again. But I got back into it and I realized my love for the game was a lot higher than I thought. So it's a kind of a game that came full circle and has got me on the better path again. So anyway, long story short, I moved to Athlete's Choice, which a lot of you guys know. I own Athlete's Choice. I used to be in an 8,000 square foot facility. It's now 20,000 square foot facility. I'm the sole owner of it. I swear half the times I come in and I look at it and I go, I don't know what I'm doing. And I look around and I just go, I can't believe I have this. But it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of perseverance to get there. Now back into the lacrosse thing, I start coaching, I start training, I start mentoring and leading, and I see that I'm really good at coaching and it's kind of in our blood. My grandfather is having a documentary made about him for coaching. My dad was a really good coach growing up. So it's kind of like in my blood. So once I started coaching and I started, I was on the sidelines and I see these high schools compete. I go to some of my kids' college games that are in the area, and I'm on the sideline, I'm itching to play again. Now I'm 27 years old. I haven't played lacrosse since I was 20. I got an itch to play again. So I go try out for the Chesapeake Bayhawks. I am out of shape. I am slow. I took a stick that was fully for the people that know, if you saw the stick that I took, you would have cut me just looking at it. It was terrible. But I showed up to camp and I made it to the last round. I got cut by the Chesapeake Bayhawks when I was 27 years old. Yeah, and again, like the setback, yeah, it was a setback, but I looked at it as, okay, I made it to the last cut of a professional lacrosse team after not playing for 7 years. I'm right there. What do I have to do? I have to start training myself and taking care of myself. Instead of putting everything into my kids and my training and everything else, I got to start, working on myself again. So I started hitting the weights again. Again, we'll go back to high school. 5 days a week, didn't miss a day. Started playing LXM Pro. I have a picture with you and you're a little squirt. Yep. So I started playing LXM Pro at that time. That was kind of like a Globetrotter type team. Had a lot of great players on there. Kyle Harrison, you know, they play in the pros still. That league folded after 3 years. It got my speed back up, and like I said, for 3 years straight, I didn't miss a day for 5 days a week. That's what does it for me. I decide that I still have something to prove. I haven't won a national championship, haven't won an ACC title, never won an ACC game. I need to win something, and I need to give it one more go. So I go back to the MLL and I pay for a flight to Denver to try out for the Denver Outlaws. It was, you know, pay for the tryout, and there was 104 kids or so there. And coach says, we're gonna take 1 or 2 guys to camp, to our training camp. So I'm looking around, I'm like, well, I better do really well because, you know, my odds aren't really good right now. So I did really well because of my training, because I knew how to, I played forever, and I just played as hard as I could. I outworked everyone that day, and I did the little things that make you stand out. They invite me to camp. I go to camp, I make the team, I play in the first 4 games. We go 0-4, I get cut. I go back home. Now I'm sitting on the sideline and I'm saying, all right, maybe it just wasn't in the cards. I can't play at this level. All I want to do is win a championship. That same team that started off 0-4 ends up winning every single game out and wins that championship that year. The ring that I could have had if I played on that team. So now the championship thing is stuck. Now I'm like, all right, I need that so bad that I'm going to work even harder. So I get called to come back next year when I didn't know if I was going to play or didn't know what I was really going to do, but I made sure that I stayed consistent with my training, stayed up to par just in case I did do it. They invited me back. I started all 12 games. I started all 12 games. 12th game, we're the #1 seed going into playoffs. We already clinched playoffs. I'm part of the team now. I'm on a #1 seed team in the professional lacrosse league, and I have a real serious chance to win a ring. We have 1 game before playoffs start, and then we're #1 seed to playoffs. I'm playing in this last game in Rochester, New York. Something happens, I fall on my wrist and I break my wrist. Tear 2 ligaments. Come off the field, tell the trainer, hey, I broke my wrist. He says, I'm good. I say, tape me back up. I go back in, play the rest of the game. Fly back from Rochester to Denver. See the Denver Broncos surgeon. He had a party at his house that night. And before that, I'm on the flight and my hand blows up like a surgical glove. It's huge. So I know it's broken. They get an MRI. Like I said, I broke my wrist, tore 2 ligaments in my wrist. Doctor shut me down. Now, #1 seed. All I want to do is win a championship. I get so close, I get shut down again. I pleaded and I cried on the phone with our coaches that I will sign any liability waiver to take their liability out, but I need to play. That's how bad I wanted to win. And they literally had to sit me down and say, if you break it if you do anything worse to it, you could lose the use of your hand. In my profession, if I have one hand, I could still do it, but it would be a little bit hard. So after a week of pleading my case, I decided to do the smart thing and hang up the gloves for that year. I hang up the gloves. They invite me to the first round playoffs. We won, so we're now in the championship game, and I'm on the sideline and watching from the sideline. If we win that game, I am not going to be satisfied because I did not play in the game, period. I wanted a championship that I played in and won. So they lose the championship. We don't get a ring. I'm in the locker room after the game, and this was going to be my retire. I was retiring. You know, I made a team as a 30-year-old rookie. I'm now 32, or I was 31 at the time, and I need to hang it up. I need to move on and do that stuff. I call my fiance, who is now my fiance. I call her. I got to come back for 1 more year. I told her I was retiring. She was like, "Are you serious?" I go, I owe it to myself. You know, I come this far already. What the hell is 1 more year, right? So I opted out of surgery in the off season. I rehabbed my wrist. I worked as hard as possible again. Made it back to about 70% in my wrist. I go play all year. We had an up and down year, 2018. We need to win our last game against Atlanta. in order to make playoffs. So we're not guaranteed. We're not a number 1 seed. We got to make playoffs. So before that game, I get a call from workers' comp from the year before about my wrist that I need to get it checked on, or they're going to drop the case. I already know that I might need surgery in the off season because it hasn't healed. It's got to 70%, but it's never got better. So I go to the doctor. The doctor takes an x-ray, takes a CT scan. He comes back and says, I got some bad news. My bone from the year before healed. I broke my wrist in 2 other places after. So here I am again, right before a chance to get playoffs and win a championship, with a broken wrist. Doctor says, I'm shutting you down. I'm gonna say that I didn't threaten him, but I might have threatened him to not tell anybody about it, and I just taped it up a little bit tighter. The reason why I say this is because like nothing was gonna stop me this last year. Like this is it, the last shot. So I just taped it up a little bit tighter. We beat Atlanta. We go to play a top-seeded Chesapeake Bayhawks. If you remember, they were the team that cut me 4 years prior. We beat them. Go to the championship. We play Rochester, which is now Dallas, the Rattlers. If you remember, that's where I broke my wrist the first time and put me out for the first championship. So, and we play them. They're the number 1 seed. They beat us twice during the year. We end up beating them. I get my ring. So storybook ending, yes. However, and look, at that time, I could, like, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I retire. I should have stayed retired. I get called by PLL, which is a new league and a new branch of lacrosse, and I still have some gas, left in the tank. I decided to sign a contract with PLL. I played in 3 games this year, and I'm sitting the bench right now. So I'm still in that struggle, that fight to keep on going, but all I could do is get back to 5 days a week, every single day, until I get back to where I want to get back. That's it. It's perseverance.
I have a question. You are such a fighter. Like, it's something that I respect so much about you. And where do you think that comes from? Like, is that internal inside of you? I just think, like, you can't teach it. Like, can you teach it? Can you,
I don't know if it could be taught. I think my dad was super tough on me. He was my coach my whole life. He was super tough on me that at that time wasn't great for me. It wasn't fun. My mom was the voice of reason, like I say, so she always said why he did it. So I think that's kind of where I learned I have a hard exterior shell, but I have a big heart type thing. So I don't know if I learned it from them or anything like that, but I'll tell you one thing, I look at my dad and I can't thank him enough for what he did, right? At that time it was tough, but just I look back at that and I don't know what it was, but I love when people tell me I can't do something, right? I don't know where that comes from. If you tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna do it, right? I don't know what it is about that. That's kind of, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but
no, that's a very good thing.
So what did you tell yourself on those days that you're sick and you're tired and you're sore and you got to get your rear end out of bed for the 5:30 workout? There are so many excuses to make. There are so many reasons not to go. So how did you get in the mindset to say, no matter what, I'm going to be there?
I think that's a great question. I think it's everyone talks about goals. I've always had these goals, right? But I think road markers are better. I don't because if you get to a goal, then you're now what?
Yeah.
I have these road markers that seem high to people, but they're road markers for me. I already have something planned for the next step after them. So just, when it came down to I'll tell you the worst thing was in New York, waking up at 5:30 a.m. during the winter. And I would run outside, right out of bed, I'd run outside, turn the car on to heat it up while I showered. So by the time I got to the car, it would be warm because it was
Oh yeah.
freezing. And then we'd open the weight room and the weight room wasn't heated. So you'd get in there and you'd to warm up, it was, yeah. So those were the toughest days for me. After you get into that, I don't know, it's the first week of working out always sucks. But if you get past the first week, the second week, it just becomes like a daily part of your day. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like eating breakfast. It's like, it just becomes routine. So I don't think, and I think those are the things like, for me, weren't hard for me. Those weren't hard for me. It was doing the other things like when I'm older is stretch and recovery and the stuff that I just get bored doing, right? That's the harder stuff, but that's the stuff I needed most. So that was the tough part. I think that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
Have any questions?
Tyler?
I know Tyler. Exactly. What did you say? What did he say to you? Oh my word. Seriously.
Told,
I'm like, oh my gosh, I never wanted to.
What do you weigh?
You did great.
Oh, you did great. Oh, good.
he told me today that I had to wear a suit and tie. He goes, you don't have a suit and tie? I go, I can't go get a suit and tie right now. I didn't bring anything. I'm wearing what I wore to work.
See,
They're
all
worst.
your seniors.
Thank you for sharing.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Connor has a little.
Sorry I cried.
I have a little
tried
gift for
not
you
to.
for
A gift?
thanking you from Guys Giving Back.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks for
And
coming,
I like
man.
the kids to do this, but honestly, and
Thank you.
I think I probably could start crying too, but I just feel like, you know, these kids, they probably don't know right now, like, how lucky they are to have a mentor like you. I mean, this is an amazing human being that has really just, I mean, persevered through so many things, and for him to own this enormous gem, you're an insane role model, and you guys really are so lucky to have him right there in your fingertips. And so I hope that you guys took a lot away from his talk. He has a lot to share, so thank you so much.
Yep, no worries.
So much.
Thanks for having me.
You.